Okay, so let's jump right into things. I am Lauren Beaker. I'm a supply chain management consultant. I joined RPI in February of 2019. I currently live in Baltimore, Maryland, working out of the RPI headquarters. I have over 10 years experience with healthcare and over 4 years in in-force support projects, as well as Cloud Suite implementations. Like I said in the last one, I'm an animal lover who is allergic to most animals. Worst part of my life. Can't have a dog.
Irony.
Yeah, the irony. As well as I enjoy crafting, any type, crochet, quilting, scrapbooking. Today, actually, I'm going to do my first balloon arch.
Oh,
as
love
a craft.
it. Love it.
Yep.
Hi, everybody. I'm Stephanie Marquez. I'm a senior supply chain consultant here at RPI. I joined the team back in July of 2019. I actually am one of our remote employees, and I reside in upstate Western New York. I have 2 children, Isabella and Aaliyah. I'm also a dog mom to Princess and Nova, but not featured here in these photos. I love live music and attending concerts. That is an actual photograph of a concert I attended last year, and I want to continue to travel, so this job is perfect for that.
Absolutely. So what are we talking about today? What does work-life balance mean?
Yep.
Resource sharing. How does that help with work-life balance? And let's wrap it up.
So specifically, work-life balance, what does it mean anyway? Like you said, work-life balance is textbook-wise. It involves separating work-related stresses versus the concerns and stresses for our personal lives, because we all have both, work
Absolutely.
and life. So this involves setting some external boundaries around work, such as maybe limiting your work hours, disconnecting from technology at home, maybe setting a certain time, internal mindset shifts, that's a big one, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. But achieving the ideal of work-life balance is tough. I know people say, like, it feels impossible, like, how do you get there? And I think it's really important to know that balance, by definition, is something that we're never going to achieve. It's balance, right? It's something that you're constantly striving towards and taking intentional action to honor your personal values.
Absolutely. So ask yourself, do you struggle with work-life balance, and how? Is that something you struggle with currently?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Is there such a thing as true work-life balance? What do you consider work-life balance to be? So for me, I'm a big proponent of, if I'm going to work extra hours today, I'll take a couple hours off next week.
Right.
Working a strict 40-hour schedule versus is it a more ebb and flow?
Yep.
How has COVID affected your work-life balance?
That's a big one.
Yes. Is COVID still affecting your work-life balance?
Mm-hmm.
How did the decreasing of work or travel affect your work-life balance?
Yep.
What does your organization culture suggest about this?
Mm-hmm.
And if you are successful at maintaining a work-life balance, think about what actions you've taken to establish or reinforce these boundaries.
So we've already mentioned twice the phrase ebb and flow, and I think our viewers will probably hear it a few more times throughout the course of our presentation. But I'm curious to know now, for you in this season that you're in, is struggling with work-life balance something that you are still dealing with personally? Are you feeling like you're in a good spot with it?
So absolutely. I have the ideal consultant lifestyle where I don't have any children or pets because I'm allergic, that I can work over, and I'm usually happy to do so, and sometimes that takes precedence. However, I do currently have a teammate on my current project where she has a strict from 5 to 7, she has dinner with her husband, so she is logging out at 5 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
She can come back later, but those are her hours, and that really helps me take a step back and say, okay, I don't need to work till 9 p.m.
So her boundaries are inadvertently helping you
Absolutely.
to establish some
Yes.
boundaries. Yeah, I love that.
And what about you?
I think right now, the season that I'm in, I'm not so much struggling with it. I mean, I think, like we've said, it's this kind of wave and we ride it. And right now I'm kind of in a sweet spot. So I've been pretty focused and very intentional about turning off if I need to turn back on after maybe family time or something like that. But it seems to work out pretty well. So yeah, it's like we're on opposite ends of the spectrum maybe right now,
Yeah.
but that's, it's pretty common.
Absolutely. So what are some struggles? So for me, with my coworker who logs out from 5 to 7, besides those 2 hours, she really needs to respond to messages right away. If she sees that notification on her computer or her phone, it's going to bother her. Versus me, it doesn't bother me. So, however, I will continue to work if I see one before I log off for the night. Or do you not disconnect? Do you carry your phone around with you everywhere?
Right.
That was something I really struggled with when we started working from home for COVID, because it was right there. I'm already here, I should be answering. Family events, are you missing them? Do you decrease in personal hobbies or interests? Have you let go of those to focus your time on work? Decrease in maintaining self-care and health. That's something I've struggled with as well, especially during COVID, because they say stop, don't go to your gym, don't go do all the things you're used to doing.
Yep. So I think along with struggles, we also at times have found some successes. And so let's talk a little bit about what our work-life balance successes might be, right? So leaving the computer and emails at work. So quite the opposite of what you were saying about feeling maybe the immediate need to respond. Completely disconnecting while on vacation. The total opposite of never disconnecting. And I think for that one, it depends on the person. So some of the things we're talking about today, it's not this, perfect formula that works for everyone. You have to do what works best for you. That ebb and flow of work hours. You mentioned that if you work a lot of hours, maybe one day, maybe the following day, if you don't have any conflicts, you take a couple of hours back. So you kind of roll with it. And creating those working hour boundaries. So your colleague on your current project sets those boundaries, and it sounds like from what you've described, it's something that they've communicated with you. You guys have an understanding, and it's, it's mutual.
Absolutely. And I don't know about you, but for me, with vacations, my family does 2-week vacations in the summer. So 2 weeks is a long time to disconnect from me.
Sure.
So I like to check my emails either in the morning or at the end of the day, just to know there's no emergencies going on. But that gives me the ability to know, okay, there's no fires, I'm not missing anything. I can now enjoy my vacation. Versus others are like, nope, I will stick to it.
Right.
Yeah. What about you? Do you have any hard and fast rules?
No, I think for me, because I have been in a place where we were talking about some struggles of like missing family events. When my kids were little, that was something that I was, some personal circumstances, I was kind of in a position where I felt like I needed to be working round the clock. And so I would maybe make choices now, hindsight's 2020, where I would go back and I would make a completely different choice and give that, hour of time to sit and watch TV with my child at that time, rather than trying to work, answer emails, or do something like that while they're there. So it doesn't always have to be this huge amount of time, but it's the quality of it. So that's something that I've been really focused on within recent years and have been able to apply, and it seems to work out pretty well.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right, the fun stuff. Categories for creating work-life balance. So here at RPI, we have had just about every employee participate in an event called Real Colors, which is a personality instrument. Some of you may be more familiar with other personality instruments such as Myers-Briggs, but Real Colors has helped us recognize our strengths as an organization, as individuals. It has helped us to recognize the strengths of others. Just having a better understanding of kind of what personality color you fall into has helped us to build rapport quickly with our clients, enables us to listen a little bit better, right? And speak in a way that's received by all colors here. So recognizing those styles of others can really help. So you might be asking yourself, like, what does this have to do with work-life balance? Well, if you understand that there are different personalities, you can understand why we've said, well, not one size fits all, right?
Absolutely.
Where it comes to work-life balance. So there's ways and tools or recommendations that we found through research and through this Real Colors event that can also help as well.
Absolutely, and we will be getting into more, but my teammate who logs off for those 2 hours is a gold. She loves her routine, she loves her checklists. As me being in primary orange, I go with the flow.
Right.
I'm very adaptable. If this is what works for her, I'll make it work for me.
Yeah.
So it's that difference of just how people think and
That
what
and
makes
knowing
them
the
tick.
strengths of others, like
Exactly.
we've learned, right? So in preparation for this event, what we did was we kind of wanted to break down some suggestions that might help people to create that work-life balance by their color or personality type.
Absolutely.
Let's get into it.
Yes. So green category. I'm primary orange, secondary green. This is the MBTI equivalent to intuitive or thinker.
Yep.
So we like data. Greens like data. So you want to make sure to budget your time. You don't need all of the data right away. Put that in there. Practice saying no, which is so hard, especially when you are data driven, that you want all of the information. You can say no to some information and pick it up later.
Right.
The last two is going to be said over and over again, but it's very important. Not one size fits all solutions.
Yep.
Even if we were both greens, my solution is not Stephanie's solution.
Correct.
And balance is constantly evolving. You're always going to have to work at it. Just like last presentation was public speaking. You got to work at it. You got to work at work-life balance.
Exactly. You got to work at it. All right, so blue is the MBTI equivalent to an intuitive feeler. So some people with blue personalities tend to be emotionally driven. They're usually looking to seek harmony in their groups, whether that be at work or at home. They're usually enthusiastic, also creative and sympathetic individuals. So with that, I think one of the things that as a blue or a feeler is this reassurance of self-worth, right? And wanting to create that harmonious environment. So I think with that, it kind of goes down to what you just said before, practice saying no. For somebody who's blue, they may really struggle with something like that because they want to please other people and they want that constant harmony. So with this, you know, practicing their self-care, scheduling of important dates, and all of those things are really kind of a derivative of creating boundaries in the workplace and at home. And showing up for yourself. So these folks tend to put others' needs before their own. Well, that's great sometimes, but when you do that, you kind of sometimes take something away from yourself. So it's okay to show up for yourself. It's encouraged. The better you are as an individual, the better you can be for the people around you.
Exactly. And I always think of our blues as they want everyone happy, they want the group hug.
Yes.
They almost feel like they're letting people down by taking a break for themselves.
Yes, exactly. That's a really good example. You got it.
Okay, so here's my favorite one, orange. This is the MBTI equivalent to a sensor or perceiver. So we like things fun, we like things quick, we want to get creative. So it's actually good when you have different team members, where my gold coworker, she has 5 to 7. On a previous project that I was on, I had another orange. So our work-life balance was very different than my current work-life balance. You want to be intentional. So as much as you want to make it fun and get creative, you still need to make time and focus on, my primary goal is to do well at work, spend the time I need to at work, but it's okay for me to focus on things outside of work, outside of those working hours. Again, one size does not fit all, and balance is constantly evolving.
I have a question though for you, because you said you're orange and this one is your favorite. I think one of the things that we learned through our Real Colors exercise is understanding that orange personality individuals typically tend to be short-term driven. And so I'm curious for you if that be intentional, right? Because that suggests that maybe kind of planning maybe far ahead or thinking out in the future, if that's difficult for you.
Yes, it is. Particularly, although for me as a consultant, and I know a lot of people who are probably watching have done Infor implementations. As long as the projects they're short term. This is our phase of training. This is our phase of testing. This is our phase of go live. So evaluating, what is my work-life balance going to be for training? What's it going to be for testing? Is it going to be many more hours at work this week and then taking some time off another week? Or is it going to be 9 to 5 off time?
I like that. So it's kind of sounding like, so correct me if I'm wrong, like you're taking like this sprint approach because the projects are broken down. You're applying that same sort of method to your personal life to help to create and establish that work-life balance depending upon what phase of your projects you're in.
Absolutely. So although it's long, I can compartmentalize them. Yeah, 5-year plans are not usually my forte.
All right, and last but not least is our gold category. These folks are the equivalent to our censors or judgers. People with gold personalities tend to be very loyalty driven. They respect rules and authority. They're very responsible, organized, and very appreciative. So I think one of the things for this is our personal emotional self-awareness is really critical. Find activities that help to free your mind from work thoughts, because we learned that work-life balance suggests that there are stresses with work and stresses in your personal life. And so I was just having a conversation before coming in here with some colleagues about turning off notifications on, Teams or Slack or whatever people might use during non-working hours. And someone said, well, just don't look at the message. Well, depending on your personality and who you are, some people may be able to just look at that message and say, I'll deal with this tomorrow. Or you have that individual, probably someone who is a gold in personality that says, oh, I've got to read this message and I have to do something with it because that's what makes me responsible. I have to get this done.
And my brain isn't going to shut down until I take care of it.
Exactly. I think something too that is somewhat challenging, and I feel confident speaking to this because I am a gold individual, is practice being sporadic. I know for myself, some of the best days that I've had are when, our director or our boss comes to us and says, you know what, I think you should just take tomorrow off. Maybe they're sensing that you're a little bit stressed out and you take a last minute day or even just a half a day. It's those sporadic times where I have generally tend to make the most of it. Excuse me. We like our list, so making a to-do list. So I know that maybe I have these, 10 tasks that I need to accomplish, and then I'll allow myself that moment. Making a list and crossing it off the list is one of the best things to do. And just to drive the point home, not one size fits all for these solutions, and also that constant reminder that balance is always changing.
Absolutely. Okay, so we have done some research and resources that we've provided. This will be on YouTube, so you can look this up. So the first one is 4 ways to master work-life balance. So establish a no-work zone. Have a dedicated space and honor that personal space. For me personally, since the pandemic, when they said, stop traveling, stop going to the office, work from home. I live alone. I have changed my workspace 3 times. So it started in my living room and dining room, and I realized this will not be 2 weeks, so let me put it down in my craft room because there was a desk there. So during my time off hours, when I'm doing, the personal, time for myself, I kept seeing my computer going, I should really get this report done. Didn't work. So I went out and I bought myself a desk, and it's now in the guest bedroom where I can shut the door because I don't have to look at it. Get organized. Use a calendar or reminders. Especially, I believe, Microsoft Office does this where you can get focus time. So schedule in those focus times, and even if you're using that focus time for yourself and take that break away to recharge, go get your coffee. Delegate. Assign tasks whenever possible. And I know this is hard for so many people, is you want to be responsible for it, you want to take care of it. It's okay to ask somebody to take over for you while you do vacation or you have that family event. I believe your daughter is graduating this year, correct?
Yeah.
So you're going to want to do those events. Have someone cover for you. Balance is not always 50-50. It's an ebb and flow. We're going to repeat that over and over again. What works today may not work in 6 months. And show yourself grace. Don't beat yourself up. And I highly believe every single color does this. You find that guilt of, I should be doing better at work. I should be doing better in personal life. We're going to make mistakes. Learn from them.
Absolutely. All right, what's our next article? So we researched here, this is actually from a counseling service. We found this article, Mastering Work-Life Balance. They all have similar titles, but for lack of better words, we wanted to get them from some different industries. So in this example here, one of the things that on the top, the very top, don't let work define you. I think it's important to remember that you're more than your title. You're more than your job. There's more that what makes you Lauren than being a supply chain consultant. in a lot of us, working from home full-time, maybe even part-time, it's kind of like you were saying, creating a dedicated space. That's going to be really important. Emphasizing interest outside of work, so whether that be with relationships or hobbies. And I really liked your example that you were saying previously about how you had your office and your craft room, but once work started taking away from something that you did for personal enjoyment, you had the self-awareness enough to say, you know what, I got to move this because this is taking away from, my me time. Maintaining your health, practicing your self-care. We talked about how that's one of the struggles that we have found amongst our research is pretty common. You've got dentist appointments, doctor's appointments, things like that have to happen during normal working hours. And when people are busy or when they let their work define them, those are usually the things that kind of go to the bottom of the list. Before you know it, it's been years since you've had your teeth cleaned.
Exactly.
Setting those boundaries, we've talked about that previously, but if it's something that you want some flexibility, create like a pocket of time. I love the dinner example that you provided between 5 and 7. If something comes up during that time, there's not a problem. You know that maybe after that or just before that, you need to have a conversation and a dialogue. And I think also too, it's really important to know that all of this conversation can feel really overwhelming when you start to break it down and you think, I can't do all of this. And I think taking little chunks of it at a time and applying one thing at a time and having the understanding that it's a journey. It's something that is always going to be prevalent as long as you're working, as long as you have, full-time employment inside the home, outside of the home. It applies to really everything.
Absolutely. So, research and resources, 5 secrets to mastering work-life balance. Again, a lot of the same things, but very good to reiterate.
Little different takes.
Yeah, different takes, but still bring home and the one I love the most, communication.
Yep.
So keep your promises, whether to yourself or your coworkers, or outside resources, your family.
Yep.
If I say I'm going to be at Christmas dinner, plan ahead, work to find someone to cover for you so you are at Christmas dinner.
Yep.
And be honest. When I started the project, I have dinner with my husband from 5 to 7 each night. I will not be available. Being open and honest and telling your teammates, hey, I'm not able to do this, or your bosses. It's always a two-way, and if that's not going to work for someone, hoping that your coworkers, teammates, families will tell you that really doesn't work for me, and let's figure out a way around it.
Right.
Define your success. So what does it look like for you? My success of work-life balance is very different than your success.
Yep.
You have children, I don't, so it's that difference of what does it look like? And it may change over time. Think long-term, accountability, planning, plan ahead. Manage your energy, which is something I don't think we've seen yet, but it's not just your physical energy, but your emotional, your mental, your spiritual. Are all your cups full?
Yep.
And manage your technology. Unplug, disconnect, create boundaries, which is very hard with all of the apps and data we see today.
Yep. While we were preparing for this, the manage your energy, not your time is one that really stuck out to me. And so after having some conversations with peers and even with some leadership here, there was a couple of individuals that provided some insight into what they do to manage their energy that really stuck out for me. And they're just very simple concepts, but I don't think if you're not intentional and you're not actively thinking about them, they go overlooked. So our practice manager, one of the things that he does on a regular basis to help manage his energy is spend, the first 15 to 20 minutes of his day expressing and reflecting on personal gratitude. So with that, you have a mindset shift in how you are going to approach and tackle your day if you're spending some time thinking about all that you're grateful for. One thing that has come up a bunch of different times is meditation and quiet time. And even taking 5 minutes in the middle of a day that might be really hectic, shutting everything off. And meditation could be something of sitting in a quiet space. It could be getting outside and taking a walk in nature. Depending on where you live in the country, maybe that's not feasible all year round, but maybe it is. But I think that those things and highlighting that, and like you said, filling your cups, that makes a big impact. And it allows you to see things from a very different perspective.
And here at Webinar Week, we have lots of people here in Baltimore office, and One person said, I'm going to go to my car for 15 minutes.
Yes.
Just because he needed quiet.
Yep.
There wasn't a lot, and that's very important. And it can be anywhere. You know, no matter where you work,
Right.
It's very easy to take a 15-minute walk to your car, sit there, get your quiet.
Yep.
Come back in ready to go.
Return, refueled, and recharged, and
Yes.
ready to go. So in preparation for this, we conducted a survey internally within our organization to get a sample of responses from our fellow RPIers. We wanted to get insight as to how our teammates and colleagues felt that they were able and or managing their work-life balance. So we had about 10 questions. We actually took the top 5, and we want to kind of break it down and show you what those metrics are.
Okay, so the first question was, how often a week do you work beyond your normal working hours? And the good news is that 55%, so over half of the people that answered, are only doing one to two days a week.
Yep.
But however, we still have a fifth of those that answered that say they're working 5 or more.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that tell us? That tells us there is an opportunity for folks to reduce the amount of time they're working beyond normal business hours. In the nature of consulting, this may be where true depending upon which stage of projects people are in, and the metric may be dynamic.
Yep.
In healthcare, which is 24/7, that may look very different because you aren't able to leave until your relief comes.
Right. Yep, that's a good point. Our second question is, can I take a break at any time during the workday? So 28% of our respondents said that they disagreed with that. So they felt that they weren't able to take a break at any time during the workday. So I think there's some strategies that folks might be able to take that could help with that. And you mentioned this, adding focus time to your calendar, or even scheduling in breaks. So if you know, okay, you know what, I really need 15 minutes at noon or at whatever time might work throughout the day, scheduling that on your calendar, being intentional, allows you to step away. So again, our 2 takeaways for this metric is adding those breaks to your calendars and being intentional about it as well.
Absolutely. And one example I always think about is with Cloud Suite, finance supply management. Pretty heavy end of month, beginning of month for finance versus supply chain is, it's going to be very busy at noon because that's when our primary supplier needs our purchase orders in.
Right. That's a really good example.
Yeah. So keeping that, when do I take a break? Can I take a full day here, or is it's about to come up at noon, I need to take a break at 10 a.m. because I know I
need to hustle at noon.
Yeah, my mental cup is going to be drained.
Yep, that's a really good point.
So block your calendar. And I often neglect my personal needs due to the stress of my work. And 40% disagree, which is awesome. It looks like the most, but between the neither agree nor disagree and agree adds up to 60%. So block your calendar, find that small way to treat yourself, even if it's going and getting a piece of chocolate from the fridge or getting that cup of coffee.
It's that small way, finding a small way to treat yourself for sure can make a big impact on the rest of your day.
Absolutely.
All right, our next question was, I often need to make difficult choices between my work and my personal life. So thankfully here it was nice to see that 48, is that 48? Yeah, 48% of our respondents disagreed with that statement, which is good. And there are some that were kind of indifferent, and still 25% that agreed with that. So I think there's some opportunity here to establish priorities, right? Establishing those priorities and remembering you are more than your work. And I think also too, just some personal self-reflection can help you assess maybe where you fall within this kind of category of responses here.
Absolutely. And our last one is, I have mastered the art of work-life balance.
Yep.
So 38% say they agree, which is awesome to hear.
Yep.
However, there are still 34% that disagree or strongly disagree, as well as 28% neither agree nor disagree. Yeah. So it might be, I've never really thought about it. It's like disagree nor agree. So always room for improvement.
Or maybe these 38% were in their sweet spot like I am right now, and I would say, heck yeah, I agree. I've mastered it.
Yeah.
I'm perfect at it.
Absolutely. So there's always room for improvement.
Yep.
Very rarely would I ever say there's not. Also, lean on your resources. Our boss always says to me, don't be an island, which is great to hear because it's you have team members and coworkers that if you just ask, they'll probably help you. And start small. Start with that, okay, I'm going to take 5 minutes to go get a piece of chocolate, or run. I'm gonna go to the dentist this year. I'm gonna get it done. You know, start small, take that 1 hour, and work your way up.
Even leaning on resources. So we only provided you with, I think, 4 different blogs or articles that we found from various industries. There's a ton of resources online as well that can just kind of help get you going, get you a little bit started on what you might be able to do to modify or improve your personal work-life balance.
Absolutely.
All right, let's sum it up. So I think it's important to know, and remember, we've said this before, but work-life balance fluctuates. So right now for you, it might be a little bit of a challenge. For me, I'm feeling okay about it. Might be something totally different even 3 to 6 months from now, maybe even less. There is no right or wrong approach, so it's going to look different for everyone. We just really encourage you to take some time to think about things, lay out your priorities, identify the things or areas where you feel you could improve, and work-life balance in that regard is going to look different for everybody. Like you said, what works for me, it's probably not going to work for you, but maybe there are some things that you do that I can then borrow from that I might have not thought of before when kind of tackling that myself.
And I absolutely the other way of like, you say like, oh, don't forget to schedule your dentist. You never think of that as like that's a work-life balance type of thing. So then there are resources available to help you get started. So make sure, Google is your friend anytime.
Google is free.
Google is free, they're your friend. It's probably on your phone. Also know it takes time. This is not I can do it immediately. This is years in the making, and it's always evolving.
Absolutely.
And we've said it before, I'm gonna say it again, don't be too hard on yourself.
Exercise grace.
Exercise grace, you know, don't feel that guilt. It's okay, because if you don't have balance, you're not gonna be able to give 100% of yourself to your work.
To your work, or your family, or your friends, or your hobbies, all of those other things.
Absolutely.
Yep. And just to kind of bring it home, I absolutely loved this quote as we were preparing. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. So like we mentioned, it's not going to be something that happens overnight. It's going to take time, and remember that you're on a journey as well.
Absolutely. And thank you all for tuning in today.